The 4 F's of fixing and flipping, one of our favorite investment strategies, on today's episode.
You are listening to the Champion Hustle podcast. Play to succeed in business and in life. Featuring Levi Hunsaker and Ryan Black.
Hello and welcome to the Champion Hustle podcast. This is episode number 16. My name is Ryan Black.
And my name is Levi Hunsaker.
And welcome out today. Today, our topic is all about fix and flip. Levi, I know you love fix and flips. I know I love fix and flips. And hopefully by the time we're done with today's episode, you too, as a listener, are going to love fix and flips because it's a fun strategy. We love real estate investing, of course, and fixing and flipping has its pros and its cons. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But we're going to kind of break it down and provide you some information, hopefully that you've never heard before, to kind of expand your perception on what the possibilities are doing fix and flip real estate transactions. So
the first thing is, why is it so popular? You know, this is the sexy strategy of real estate right now, and it's really that way because TV has made it popular. Anytime that you can get information onto a popularized TV show, the interest is gonna improve a ton. So
and there's a lot of shows, right? I mean, I think HGTV, I don't know what they were before all the flipping shows, I'm sure that I know they've existed for a long time. I don't know what they had, what their programming lineup was, but now it's like pretty much some variation of flipping.
I had never heard about HGTV until my wife started telling me about fixing and flipping shows.
Yeah. And now one thing to keep in mind, TV is sensationalized, right? It's especially reality TV. So for us people who are actually flippers, when we watch those programs, we do enjoy it to some extent. Well, I'll speak for myself. I enjoy them to some extent. I don't really watch much TV. I have other things I use my time for, but once in a while, if I see a clip from one of the shows, a lot of the stuff just doesn't add up because the numbers don't make sense. What they're doing, you wouldn't really do on a real deal. It's definitely overly, dramatized.
Dramatized, yeah.
Dramatized in order to make content because as a real flipper, I don't know. That's my perception.
And they want the shows to be entertaining, so it is what it is. But you have to understand that there's pieces of the equation that are missing when you look at the numbers, when you look at what they're doing on the flipping shows. You don't always put, high-end materials into every house you've got. You've got to look at the market.
Yeah.
So one of the big things about flipping is massive paychecks. We've talked about massive income versus passive income. And fixing and flipping is a massive income strategy. And you're going to be looking at a big paycheck at the end of it. That's the goal, right?
Well, and it's cool. What's really cool to see is people that we've worked with who have literally 2 or 3x'd their annual income on one deal. It is impressive, right? Obviously, results, your mileage may vary, your results may vary. Everyone's a little bit different. But when we see time and time again these examples of people who get involved in real estate investing and then are truly able to multiply their annual income on a single project, those massive paydays definitely are attractive. I'll give you that. The other thing that's really enjoyable is when you're in the project is the sense of accomplishment of being able to see kind of that before and after transformation, right? Whether it's just a dilapidated house or a drug house or just a house that needs to be updated, seeing that transformation of the before and the after, increasing the aesthetic, increasing the utilization of the property, and it's fun. It's very satisfying to be able to see and say, you know what? I did this. This is something I did. Even if you weren't the one lifting the hammer, you planned it, you oversaw the project, and there's something really satisfying about being able to see a job well done and having that accomplishment. And then, of course, the buyer comes and they're happy too because they bought the house.
Well, and that goes to the vision, having the knowledge and the vision to actually create the ability to make that happen. That's what we do as investors, as flippers, and why you're getting paid is because you have the knowledge, the relationships, and you can actually put the deal together and get it done.
And that one thing that I often tell people is, when people are, inquiring about, real estate investing and is it really hard? I said, look, this isn't rocket science. We're not doing brain surgery here, guys. Bricks and sticks, okay? We're talking about real estate. Now, so what do I mean by that? It's not overtly complex, but it's not simple either. Like there's a lot of things you need to know because a lot of people don't know what it is they don't know. So you got to understand all the nuances. You got to understand everything from, how to find the deal, how to negotiate it, how to do the contracts, how to correctly raise the funds, how to manage the project, how to find the right contractors, how to deal with challenges and surprises, how to protect yourself from losses, right? How to do the market analysis, how to do the project analysis, how to do all of those different aspects, and then how to successfully list, sell, market, sell the property. There's a lot of different how to deal with inspectors, how to deal with permitting, how to deal with all that stuff. So there is a lot of things. But the good thing is if you learn all of those pieces, or once you learn all those pieces, it's not that complicated, right? It's just a matter of, like you said, acquiring that knowledge, having the right relationships, because you ain't doing this by yourself, that's for sure. It's not a one-man band thing. Surrounding yourself with the other right professionals that can help you with that, and then at the same time, making sure that you have the correct knowledge to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, and the number one thing that when I talk to people and they are interested in it, and I ask them why they're not doing it yet, what do you think they say?
Probably fear. Or
it is a fear, but a fear of what?
Well, fear of losing money.
Money.
Fear of screwing up.
It all comes down to money. And if you don't know what you're doing, the risk of that money goes way up. And it takes money to do real estate. It doesn't have to be yours. But there's a lot of money, a lot of dollar bills are in real estate, right?
That is very profound. A lot of dollar bills are in real estate. Absolutely.
Hey, just keeping it real.
I love it. I want to define really quick because sometimes, obviously the words we use are important. And I want to clarify exactly in today's episode what we're referring to when we're talking about fix and flipping. Because we're not talking about flipping contracts, which is wholesaling, which we've mentioned in the past, which is where you acquire a property, you put it under, or you acquire a contract with the property, you put the property under contract, and then you sell that contract to another investor, where you never actually take possession of the property, you never do anything to it. That's flipping contracts or wholesaling. We're not talking about that today. And another term you might also hear is that of rehabbing. Rehabbing is similar. I mean, it could be synonymous to fixing and flipping. Rehabbing typically is more in-depth. It's more detailed. If you're going to do a full rehab, you might be gutting the entire property down to to the studs and then rebuilding from there. Whereas a fix and flip, especially if it's like a splash and dash fix and flip, you might be like painting, putting in new carpeting, and a few minor things, and that's it. So rehabs are typically much more intense as far as time, money, and the work involved, whereas the flips are generally a little quicker, easier, less time and cost intensive. But for our intents and purposes today, as we talk about fixing and flipping, kind of rehabbing and fixing and flipping are going to be synonymous. We're talking about acquiring the property, making some level of improvements to that property, and then turning around and selling it. So.
Yeah, and one of the big differences that I like to think of when we look at the differences between flipping and rehabbing, and at the end of the day, the strategy is similar, but when you talk about rehabbing, you're talking about making major structural modifications, right? Big changes, big adjustments to the property. A fix and flip is you're just going to make it nice, clean, and get somebody that is going to love that home in there to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. So typically, because every timeline is a little bit different on every project, obviously, but, and we've done both. We've done the quick and dirty splash and dash, and we've done the massive rehabs, and there's obviously money to be made in all those types of deals. But, but okay. So what are some of the pros? Like, let's look at the pros and cons of flipping. What would you say are some of your favorite upsides, Levi, for doing fix and flips?
We're running a business here, right? So one of my favorites is the money that can be made in flipping, right? So a lot of times you're looking at 20, 30, 40. We even have some guys in our community that have made six figures, $150,000 on a single deal. Yep. Now, that's the home run. Those don't come along very often, but they do come along if you're looking for them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the upside, to reiterate the satisfaction, like, I don't know. I want to feel like in whatever business I'm running that I'm making a difference, right? There's a lot of different ways to make money in this world. Some legal, some illegal. But among the legal options, I feel that I want to do something where I feel like I'm leaving some type of a positive impact on other people. It's not just, obviously it's important to provide for my family, but where there's some type of an impact. And so for me, I know that we've experienced in some of the flips that we've done, we've actually had the neighbors come over and thank us for taking what was the eyesore of the neighborhood and turning it into a beautiful home. And, obviously situations like that. And then of course the buyers are super happy because they got a beautiful home at a great price. So I don't know. I just like being able to not only solve other people's problems through real estate investing, but specifically in flipping, be able to take something when we always see the potential, right? We're looking at that property and other people say, man, that thing's ugly. And we're like, oh, this place is incredible because we see the future potential of that property. So for me,
I like
that's
to
a big
call
plus.
It instead of beer goggles, it's investor goggles.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I go in a house and it stinks. It's got garbage everywhere. The people vacated and just left everything behind. Maybe it was a hoarder house, right? We can go in and solve those problems. So one of the best things about it is I believe in win-win or no deal. Okay. If you have to take advantage of someone to do your business, I'm going to recommend that you rethink how you're doing your business, because you don't have to do that. And unfortunately, there are some investors that have done that and give investors a bad name. But can we go in and solve a challenge for a homeowner? Whether that means they're in pre-foreclosure and they're going to lose their home, or they just can't take care of the property anymore. My first deal was not a sad story. The guy, it was just an older gentleman. He physically could not keep the upkeep on the property. We had waist-high grass. And Guess what? When we mowed the lawn, we found a snowmobile in the backyard.
Sweet.
So we ended up giving that to one of the neighbors. But it's just, you can solve a challenge for the homeowner. You're solving a challenge for your business. You're creating a win for a lot of people, right? The contractors, you're creating jobs for them to do, right? You are creating income for the people with the funding. You are creating a home that somebody else can enjoy. You're creating, you mentioned it already, a win for the neighborhood by improving what is an eyesore a lot of times in a neighborhood. And so there's all of these wins all around. So when you can create those wins, that's when you have people that are happy with what you're doing.
Well, and I love those points you brought up. Another thing that is, I think, really valuable is from a strategy, right? Because we have a lot of different investing strategies that we love, but fix and flip absolutely is a highly leveraged strategy from the function of time. Because you are like, the way we run it, we're not out there swinging a hammer. We are leveraging other people's time, right? OPT, OPM, other people's money, right? We are the brains behind the operation. But if you do fix and flips correctly, there are some investing strategies that will require more of your time. But if you're doing it correctly, you're going to be able to tell them what to do, and then they're the ones there every day taking care of it while you can focus your effort on other things. So I like how leveraged running fix and flips can be.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the cons. What are some of the big drawbacks for you?
Well, there are always the possibilities of unexpected surprises. And I would say expect the unexpected. We had a property once where, oh boy, I don't know if I told you about this one. So we had just closed on the property. This was a big house. I mean, it was like 5,000 something square feet. So it was a big house. And we'd closed about 2 or 3 days earlier. I was over there at the property with my two boys. I can't remember. We were looking at something, but my boys started like screaming and cheering. And I'm like, what's going on, guys? they're like, look, Dad, it's raining inside the house. And so this is a 2-story house with a basement, right? So we were on the main floor. So we had the basement underneath us and then the upstairs. And they're in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen and I see that there's like water streaming through, coming down from the ceiling. And so I grabbed, there was like a broom or something in the corner. It was a stick. I grabbed it and hit the ceiling. And the ceiling came crashing down and this water came rushing everywhere. And my boys were like, yay! And they were running around and they thought it was the coolest thing.
And you're just thinking, oh.
I'm like, what on earth? Literally, I was in the property the day before or 2 days before to do a final walkthrough before we bought it. Like, this wasn't here. And now we own it. Now it's on us. What is going on? Long story short, the upstairs master bathroom toilet had a plumbing issue. Now, let me clarify. This was not the sewage water. It was the tank. Inside of the tanks, you've got the float. And the float had gotten improperly adjusted to where the water was still continuing to fill in the tank. And it actually was overflowing the backside of the tank, the clean water, running down and into the wall. And it filled up the ceiling joists above the kitchen. So it's something that had obviously gone on for a long time. And then it actually went down the wall into the basement. So we had 2 stories worth of drywall damage. Luckily, there was no mold. It hadn't gone on that long. But that was an unexpected expense to where we had to cut out all the drywall, dry it out, make sure, there was no mold or anything. We were fine. And then, redo that. It was an easy plumbing fix. We had other plumbing woes on that property, but that's a story for another day. But with the rain, it was what it was. 1-2 days after closing, there we were. Now, the good thing is we always have what we call an oops or a hedge in our numbers. So we were expecting the unexpected. So it was like, all right, well, there goes some of our extra, oops money is now going towards the repair. But at the time, those little surprises, those unexpected surprises can definitely be a con. Exactly. Can definitely throw a wrench into things when you're just getting started on the project. So that's one potential big con with the flips.
Yeah, for me, it's the time. Sometimes things take longer, right? When you're using leverage and you're not doing a lot of the work yourself and you're hiring contractors, understanding how to put the sequencing of your contractors and then make sure that they actually show up and do the work on time, because one contractor can throw the entire schedule off.
Yeah.
And if you miss a window, you might actually be weeks to months out before you can get that contractor to come back in again. You might have to hire somebody else just to make your project work. So that can definitely be a challenge. But a lot of times with a flip, you're not going to see a paycheck for at least 4 months. So yeah. even if you're able to flip a property that you want to make sure qualifies for FHA financing, and keep in mind, if you want it to qualify for FHA financing, you have to hold that property for 90 days before you even relist it again. Otherwise, it doesn't qualify. VA and FHA, you can't get loans on that. So make sure that you understand that. So you're looking at 4 months realistically, especially if you're in kind of the lower end entry level markets. Mm-hmm. So what if you need money right now? Fix and Flips is not going to provide that for you until you start to build a pipeline of these funding or of these deals that are paying you on a regular basis. Yeah, that's a common question. Okay, I'm getting my first deal. How soon am I going to make money? I don't know, like 6 months. Well, and it
depends.
If you need money now, you might want to consider doing a wholesale on a deal if you've got that.
Right. Yeah. Which is a great alternative, because you're in, you're out, and you're going to get paid within usually a week. So
yeah, and it's a means to an end, right?
Right.
Because you want to go on to the next deal and do the flip.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's definitely, and that's what I love about real estate is it's not a one size fits all deal, right? Everyone's a little bit different. They're in a different situation, and it can be flexible for that situation. Another con is definitely can be permitting, inspectors, and dealing with the cities. Now, gratefully, knock on wood, I have not had any major issues, but I do know people who have been red tagged, which is where, if there's anything going on in the project that the city doesn't like, or you didn't pull the proper permits that the city requires and they catch you, then you'll get red tag, which is a stop order. And then you've got fines. It can like you said, seriously screw up your timeline, because if you had all of your subs lined up, and then all of a sudden you've got a 2 or 3 week delay to get the city inspector out there, it can really mess things up. So particularly in certain areas, some areas are worse than others, but some areas are fine. But dealing with that, inspections, permitting, and just the bureaucracy of dealing with the city officials can be pretty tense in some situations.
There are people that risk not pulling the permits. It's not worth it, because when it really comes down to it, if you get red tagged, the city knows that you were not following their process. And there's no policy, there's nothing, but from experience, I have seen that, maybe they take a little extra time than they needed to, or drag their feet a little bit more. So you just don't need that. It's a lot easier to just pull the permits up front, get the inspections done, be on the up and up, and then you're not running the fear, you're not kind of wondering, hey, do I have to worry about the inspection authorities coming around and shutting my project down? If you're doing it up and up with the city and everything's good, yeah, you'd have to work that into your timeline of actually getting the inspections done and everything. But you are also knowing that you're following that process set forth by the city, and that the people that are going to buy the home from you have everything in order, and they're not going to have a problem with it either.
Yeah, and especially with some things, because there's certain things that are really safety hazards, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing running new gas lines, you can blow up the house, or burn, or somebody who doesn't know what they're doing on electrical,
or carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, carbon monoxide, or burn down the house, or certain structural changes that they're just guessing on. The house can collapse. It can have serious consequences. So you really want to make sure that you say, okay, if I were to live in this house with my family, what would I want to make sure? How would I want to make sure that things were done correctly and do it to that standard?
So I do not subscribe to the construction motto. You know what the construction motto is, right?
Yes.
Can't see it from my house. So I don't subscribe to that philosophy, because I want to turn out a quality product.
Yeah.
If my name is attached to it, I want to know that if somebody says, oh yeah, this person did that work, that I can be proud of what has happened there.
Exactly. And if, in the event that, even 5 years after you sell a property, something comes up and, the current owner tries to, open litigation against you, I don't know what the statute of limitations and all that is. And it's probably varies by jurisdiction, by state, but I don't want to find that out. So it's just better to avoid any of those situations. And
if you've done everything right, it's a lot easier to prove on your end that you did things by the book than to trying to explain to a judge why you didn't pull permits.
Exactly. Another con of fixing and flipping would be potential market shifts. And I'm talking about massive market shifts, right? You're in the middle of a project, you're, $300,000-$400,000 in, not from your pocket, but, money in the deal with the acquisition, your holding costs, your repairs, all that stuff. At that point, then, you were anticipating, let's say you're anticipating selling the property for $500K, and there's some massive downturn. All of a sudden, the property's only worth $400K, right? $300K. Now what do you do? Now, I know for us, this is not really a con. Levi, do you want to expand a little bit on that? Why not? But for a lot of people, it can be a massive con. You can totally lose your shirt over something like that.
So it can be a con if you are not prepared, if you have not structured properly. And we're actually going to talk about how to structure that properly in one of the 4 F's of fix and flip that we're going to talk about here coming up next.
Awesome. Yeah. So, let's dive into that. Let's talk about the 4 F's, the 4 F's of flipping.
The first F is finding it. How do you find a property that, in a lot of cases, what we're looking for is a $100,000 discount from what it will be worth once we have done all the work to it, right? So we're going to go in and we're going to put money into a property, and there are hard costs, there are money costs, there are materials costs, and don't forget that you want profit out of it at the end because we're running a business here.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that the topic of analysis, of deal analysis, I mean, that could be a multi-episode conversation right there.
Yes, it could.
There's a lot that goes into that, but the key thing of in finding the properties, there are dozens and dozens of different ways of finding properties. What I tell people is, look, once you learn all the different ways, there's different mediums. There's online mediums, there's traditional mediums, there's technology mediums, there's relationship mediums. Once you figure out kind of what works well with you and your personality and your skill set, try a few different ways. I mean, we've got software, we've got all these different ways that you can generate leads. Stick with what works for you. Some guys love going to the auctions. Me personally, I'm not an auction guy. I don't like it. That doesn't mean it's wrong. I just am. That's not my thing. That's not for me.
I don't like going on a blind date and buying a house I've never seen.
Exactly. So there's not a right or a wrong way to find the houses. There are a bunch of different strategies. So, you got to kind of look through the ones and find the ones that work for you and then hone into those. Some people love just buying properties from wholesalers. Like, whatever the wholesalers bring me, that's what I want, because I don't want to spend any of my time looking for the deals. I'll just check my email, get the wholesale deal and buy it, and I'm happy. They pay a little bit more, but that's fine. So once again, finding deals would be another multi-episode conversation.
Well, so what are some of your favorite ways to find deals?
So I like using, actually on my cell phone, I have mobile apps that will run queries for me. And so whenever a property comes up that fits the parameters of that query, then it will give me a push notification. So I can constantly see when new properties come up on the market that meet those specifications. It'll give me a push notification, and then I can open it up and see, is this something that that I'm interested in? Yes or no? And it's seriously like a 10-second review of seeing, does this merit more investigation? Yes or no? So that's one way that I like to do it. Another one is we like working with distressed sellers, folks who are going through a hard time, providing solutions, creating a win-win, as you mentioned earlier. And so working with pre-foreclosure leads, we've got some software that helps us generate that. We also work with the local recorders, the county recorder's office, to be able to acquire that data, that information, to work with people who are going through a tough time and are going to lose their house, and we're able to stop that foreclosure. So that's another way that I like. And third, what would be my third way? Third way, relationships. Network, letting people know that what we're doing.
That's what I was going to tell you is relationships. But I was going to take it a little bit different way.
Okay.
So instead of networking with people, right? That's a good way to find deals too. But what if you're networking with professionals? What if you are networking with probate attorneys? What if you're networking with real estate agents that sometimes get a listing, or somebody that wants to sell a house that is just in a condition that they cannot list it on the MLS? For example, if you don't have a stove in the house, just a simple thing as a stove, certain types of financing you will never get. They won't approve the loan. And so, but the person can't afford to buy a stove. So what do? Well, we find a way to make that work. But there's also other conditions of the home where it's just not going to list or sell well on the MLS because people are looking for move-in ready homes.
Right. Yeah. As investors, we specialize in the sucky ones.
Yeah. So network with professionals, real estate agents, title agents, attorneys, and even CPAs, right? Because they can tell you when somebody needs to do a 1031 exchange on their property. If you're set up to go buy that from them, then you've just created another win. Yeah. So network with professionals.
I love it. Now, once you found the property, the second F is to fund it, right? Funding the property. Obviously, we talked about you do need to have money to invest in real estate, but it doesn't have to be your money. And obviously, by doing that, we raise capital from private money lenders or investors. Typically, particularly on fix and flips, we're never going to deal with a bank. There are certain types of investments where we will work with banks. For on flipping, we're not going to get bank financing. It's too slow, too expensive. It just doesn't make sense. And so, typically, I know with the funding, We have different strategies. You can work with hard money lenders who, as long as the terms are amicable for you, you can that can be a great solution. But private money is really the key. I mean, that's really the golden goose right there that lays the golden egg. The private money, because you're able to correctly raise that capital and then take it and either invest it in a series of projects or in a single project. That money could come from somebody's retirement plan. It could come from some type of a HELOC or line of credit, or simply other investments that have been translated over into liquidity for investing. But that is almost all of the flipping that we have done has been entirely funded, almost exclusively by other people's money from their retirement plans. So that's been our thing.
We mentioned in the cons there's ways to do the funding right, and there's the ways to kind of get burned in a downturning economy. So one of the ways that we want to look at this is we could go borrow every cent needed to do a property. There's ways to raise that money and borrow it. But now you are completely debt laden, and that makes it hard to refinance if you need to. So what we like to talk about is partnerships. So this is another great way to raise private money, is instead of lending, you're talking about creating a partnership where you guys get to share in the deal. And you can create a win for them and create a win for your business. Now, two great questions to ask when you're looking at doing this is, hey, what kind of return are you getting in your retirement account? That's question number one. What are people going to say right now? It's not looking good.
Negative.
They either don't know, or they have buried their head in the sand like an ostrich because they don't want to look anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, would you be okay if I doubled or tripled that for you? And that's not blowing smoke, right? You really can double or triple that return for them.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to do that, and you can build a partnership where if the economy downturns and the property's not worth what you had projected it to be at, well, you just turn it into a rental property, and now you have a partner in a rental property instead of a partner in a flip. So we call that a debt equity blend, and so you're not over leveraged in the property, and you have a partner to be able to share in that long term.
Yeah, funding. There are so many different ways. I love that debt equity blend is a great way to put it together, and it's just not being over leveraged is so important. Raising the capital, coming up with the capital. A lot of people seem to think that that's a huge barrier. It's really not. If you have the deal and you have the right relationships, you can get the money. That's not a challenge.
Well, and be careful about the way that you raise the money, right?
Yes.
Posting and splashing all over Facebook that you need money, that can get you in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
So understand the laws, understand what it takes to get investors into your business, right? There's that tricky I word, investor. That's where the government gets involved with the SEC.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have relationships with people. Again, we're back to that R word, relationships, and find a way to work together that's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. So you do not want the SEC coming to knock on your door. That's not a good day. All right, now that we got it funded, then the next F is flipping. And flipping is, well, managing the project, making all the updates, whether it's more cosmetic or more structural, whatever it happens to be, going through that. And, there's a lot we could mention on this too. The big thing with flipping is you want to finish out the property according to what the market wants, not what you want. And that's a mistake that sometimes newer folks make, is they think, well, I think this would look nice, and they design it for themselves personally. You're not designing the property for you personally, you're designing it for whatever is popular mass market in the moment. And so, everything from tile design and colors and, layout and amenities, all that stuff, you want to look and see in that area, in that neighborhood, in that classification of home, currently what is hot at that price point. What should you include? What should you not? Certain things are just a waste of money. Other things are essential. So you want to make sure that you're not over rehabbing and not under rehabbing. You want to just get it right there in the middle so you can get the most bang for your buck.
Well, and there are certain aspects of it where it may not help the price point, but it is going to help sellability. So for example, if I put a granite countertop in mine and no other house in the neighborhood has a granite countertop, it might improve the value of the house a little bit, maybe not, but I'm not banking on that. What I'm doing that for is to say, you know what, this is a dang nice house.
Yeah.
I'm going to improve the sellability so that I'm not sitting on it, because guess what? If I've borrowed money and I'm paying interest, every day is costing me money. So that's more of kind of a self-preservation kind of a thing. And honestly, when you build relationships, you can get those granite countertops for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
One of our properties, the granite countertop ended up going in for $800.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. It's all, and that's the thing is, as you build those relationships and run a volume business, you are able to acquire not only materials but labor at a cheaper rate, and it can really turn out quite nicely in the end. What's the fourth F, Levi?
So the fourth F, once you're done, forget about it.
Forget about it. Yeah. Forget about it.
We say that a little tongue-in-cheek here. You don't actually forget about it. You're going to remember your deals. You want to make sure that the people that bought your house, they got good value for what they were paying for. But you just sold the property. It's not yours anymore. So what do? Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Just on to the next one. It's just in, out, in, out, in, out. And like we said, do it right, do it well, do quality work. But once you're done, on to the next one. What you really, and some people really struggle with this, don't get emotionally attached to the project. Right? Some people that's not an issue, but some people it's really hard. And they drag things out, and because they want to get everything perfect, guys, it's a project. Finish it and forget about it. You got to move on to the next.
Done beats perfect.
Right. Done beats perfect. And if you're wanting to remodel a home for your personal use, for your family, awesome. Do that. That's not one of your business projects. That's not one of your investments. If it's an investment, treat it as such, right? It needs to be just do it and forget and on to the next one.
Well, and it's all about the numbers, right?
Yeah.
If the numbers say that something's a good investment, if I'm going to put money into it, I want to make sure at least twice that much comes back.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there are certain things that are either functional or safety hazards. You got to fix those no matter what. But outside of that, make sure if you're going to improve something that you're getting a return on that investment.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's where the conversation of analysis goes in, right? And I'm sure at some point in the future we'll have an episode where we talk about that, deal analysis, market analysis, all that, because it's really important to be able to understand what you should do and what you shouldn't do and why, because otherwise you're just throwing money away. And we don't want to do that when we're investing. So I guess that's all we got for today. This has been a good episode. Love talking about flips. Love talking about anything real estate. I just love talking with Levi. It's a great time. It's always a good time.
It's always a good time.
So next week we have actually a special guest that's going to be coming and joining us, and he is going to take us through a business banking strategy that very few people know of. And this strategy can absolutely transform your business finances and how you run things. I'll tell you this, when I learned the strategies that this guy teaches, I wish I would have known it 10 years ago, because it would have completely transformed my prior business, but whatever. You live and learn. And so we are excited to have him join us next week. So we look forward to seeing you then. And once again, quick reminder, we've got online championhustle.com. It's where you can find all of the subscription links, as well as more information about us and about the show. And we've got our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook group. You're welcome to plug in and like that. Share it with your fellow entrepreneurs, your fellow entrepreneurial friends and family, so we can share the good word of Champion Hustle and be able to bless and impact more people's lives, living the American dream.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Champion Hustle podcast. For more great content and to join our online community, visit us at championhustle.com.